Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a really important viewer question, and that is sort of how do you get up back on your feet? How do you get and tap into your self-reserve? How do you emanate the strength, the courage, the bravery, sort of the release, or really sort of, healing any sort of traumatic wound or traumatic relationship occurrence. It's sort of maybe what you would consider out sort of the norm of the mass. In other words, you feel this person sort of, took an override in some way. And what I want to talk about right now is exactly that. Sort of when you are wounded, meaning there's an override, there's an imposition, and there's a stagnation or a limitation against you, and reflected through the eye contact, and then, secondly, the heart contact or the swagger or maybe the negative body behavior that a narcissist will utilize, not only their verbal, but their nonverbal behavior, which is difficult to detect and seize and sort of take the opportunity to spread it out and see in reality, realistically, what is going on here, so you can actually deal with what you might have considered as estrangement or being, quote unquote, left out of the loop, not understanding. There's something that was hidden. There's something that they weren't upfront about. You leave the room and all of a sudden there's, I can't believe this, I can't believe, they're totally different to your face. I just have a drink of Diet Coke here. I know it's not that good, but it is summertime, and I usually don't drink pop, but it's kind of like a splurge for me. And, there's all sorts of like flavored beverages and waters and things you can mix, like watermelon and kiwi, and get these, cool combos going. I have not gotten into that, but I probably will. And, you got to keep your water intake and keep like hydrogenated for your best wellness, your healing. And really having that is sort of your repertoire, your nonverbal repertoire is part of the key to healing and moving forward. Meaning what you own, the body you are in, the heart, and now the growing awareness and intellectual understanding, sort of in reflection, going through the mishmash of everything you've been through. You can't really quite, get your hands around it. So that's what we're doing here is I want you to see sort of the core of where things were hurt. And there's sort of really at the origination, the mishmash occurs in that sort of annihilation, destruction, through disapproval, sort of malice, sort of kind of what I consider, you might consider it entitlement behavior, or where they sort of cut you off or have a sneer that cuts you off at the knee. Like, you see their look and you almost fall over. It's so intense, or it's meant to be threatening, like if you're driving on a car, nowadays, I don't know what it is, but people are becoming very fierce on the road. Like, you're driving somewhere, speed limit 65, you're pushing it, maybe you're going 75, and then here comes a car careening, gotta be pushing 100, dangerous driving, weaving, as if this guy is setting, the rules. In other words, there's this guy, this whatever cool SUV, these huge mobiles that like people are driving, but like, I don't think they're really souped up, but I don't think like you're meant to drive those huge super model, super do vans or whatever you call those SUVs, but really like the really huge ones. But the guy is like going literally, I don't see this very regularly, but like 100. I'm like, and then other people's, for some reason, they try to like, if they have a souped up car, sometimes they might get into sort of a follow this guy through the weave as this guy like opens up so that he gets sort of followers and supply. And for that guy who's pushing his limit, he might be very interested and curious to see if he picked up any followers while breaking these rules. And then those become his sort of supply, his, whatever, his ego boosters, that external validation that the narcissist relies on, but you have then been conditioned to rely on a set of other externally motivated people's approval. When really strength and healing means just like you're doing it because that's who you are. And it's just like you have to ask yourself some questions. If I didn't have this annihilation, if I really felt I had a boundary intact, an emotional boundary that's huge, not condemning. The problem, and we talk about here, is with a narcissist, there's this they create and sort of put out there a very challenging, combative, and condescending or sort of annihilating of your boundaries. And what I also tie in as your standards, but I want you to get an emotional grab, a real physical feel of what you own. But the narcissist won't reflect that back to you because it is a threat of their nature, because they have little idiosyncratic, problems with attachment and binding to people where they're not supported. They have to have that maladaptive, just sort of pin prick. They have to come off as a little painful, tension creating, problematic where there is none. And then people begin to, and then they've, the problems. So if we're to kind of really get the healing out, is to realize what is it made of. So yes, in the privacy of this video, what is it made of? It's made of, they want to make their way and they want you to be behind, but oftentimes they serve as an eclipse. They block you out. They sort of use their ways to sort of maneuver you. It's called emotional manipulation, having a lot of character, charismatic, being the firstborn, having the authority, born with a vision, maybe, whatever it is that they sort of have to override. And the override is created in annihilation and sort of disrespect, and meaning sort of invalidation of your boundaries, which means who you are just as a person, not composed of what you have to impress them, which ultimately becomes a lot of the relationship is what you have to do to impress them. And then so now you're like created, a lot of your relationship can be based on, validating them, simultaneously validating the invalidation of you, if you will. So there's a really big sort of unknown, hidden, that you give up for something greater that you envision, but it's oftentimes wrought with a lot of hurts. It's not to say you're going to go through life without hurt at all. This is true. But when it becomes a really big, large amount to the point where you can't function, you can't go out and meet people, you can't even serve your own self-interest without feeling okay, guilty, bad, questioning, self-doubt, just sort of soaking in and sort of wallowing in this sort of placebo-like symbiotic fluid with this person that has conditioned you to be not around or not be, to not be you. So they don't want to outwardly, they cannot. So it's like an inability, but it's a tool to sort of carve out what's larger for them so that they see less in you, or furthermore, that you cannot see within yourself. So to see within yourself and your own strengths is a key to being happy or feeling energized, motivated, operating freely, without tension, without question, without outbursts, without, feeling a sense of weakness, and them being with you in that, and then knowing, that you're there and that they are furthermore okay with that, or don't feel that they are based or judged on that. They're like, these are the people who disappear if something happens to you, they feel, you know, that the relationship is marred, or there's some, you know, and they then just throw that, but it becomes self-inhibiting. So these are the learns. So in the book that I'm talking about, really when you're talking about feeling free and knowing what that is, it's understanding how some of the hurt could have been and what could have contributed to it, and how can you really truly learn, study, and move on freely in your actual body and your mind, because a lot of the relationship with them is in their mind, where you could be operating more what you would feel is maybe more natural, respectful, you know, understanding that if things get out of control here, we're together as a team, and you don't have to go into a rageaholic attack or a condescending maneuver whenever you try to, out of the blue, here they'll just assail you with some sort of condescending look, behavior, statement. You know what it is for you, and you know they feel it's like an emotional irreliability. You're sort of all in, and they go, well, maybe I'll pencil this in after they've already said yes. You know, and they change the rules on you, just like the driver, who is very dangerous. They're just going with complete disregard. Jackson Browne, they look at life with such disregard. That was one of his lyrics. But it's truly, they're just like, I just don't care. They are so out there, so up there, that they are looking, it's their perspective and how they're looking at things. While you're blue in the face, maybe you've, you know, sacrificed a lot. You've given a lot. You know, you have gone through a lot. You've gone through a lot of talks, discussion. What do we do now? I can't believe you did this. We should be here by now. All that is wrought with tension that is created in the mind, almost as a requirement, but you don't kind of see what you're getting sort of involved in until you get towards the top a little bit further along, and you go, man, this person is nothing but an emotional meat grinder I'm going to step into, because they're going to have a rage that really hits you across the head, up the chin, you know, under the calf. When you thought you were trying to dance and do the tango, they flip you a bad one, you know, or they throw something out there, you know, about you negatively, and just sort of to keep you down. It's a very strange habit. And it gets more pronounced as people get older, meaning it's part of their shtick. It's one of those sort of like, oh, you know, you should really do this, you know, shouldn't you, you know, and then you've already got something together, and then there's, you know, they'll condescend what you've already, or who you are. It's just part of their leverage that they try to create. And you might get radically used to having that leverage over you. In other words, you'll work to or live to impress them. You'll work to hopefully, you know, help them change, turn around, things will work out. Let's just stick it in there, stick it out there, whatever it is we have to do. And you're still confused. They've turned it around. They've come back. Whatever it is, mishmash, it's into an emotional formulation that you will get emotionally stuck. It's like emotional quicksand. The more you try to think about it, the more it'll bring you down, suck you in. Has anyone had their foot in quicksand? I mean, or like, let's say a step that is totally broken. Have you ever been to someone's house and then part of their step is so broken, you know, or you have to do a big step up, like, what am I stating? But it's just that there's a lot of these sort of manipulations that you get wrought with that aren't, they use leverage, meaning like a control over, but it leaves you powerless as part of the outcome. That is not pleasant. That is not sustainable for you. But people sometimes go too far to the point where they can't recognize it. They can't see it. You have to step out and you have to step back and begin to hold space for yourself. Pure and distinct and separate, without judgment from anyone, anything, any learning, any social leanings. Just back it up and stop that sort of energetic, moving anywhere because you've judged all your behaviors towards some outcome sometimes that is not working. So you'll find yourself sort of wasting a lot of time and your energy, and you're not sort of popping out or discovering all those little things that are really, really underground that you have been neglected and were denied, and you are now living in denial, but you cannot recognize denial, so you can pop it out and sort of live on the other side. A lot of people do not know it. Is it possible? Is it real? Am I strong? You have to take the steps. You have to get on the ramp. Who cares if someone laughs at you? It is jealousy. Who cares if it's too small for them? It's just right for you. Who cares if you're really energized and you're now believing in yourself and you're like almost aghast at some great thing that you did on your own without needing the external validation, which we're going to help you uncover here in a minute. But see, that sort of engine, that emotional energy, that requirement for I am, that comes up once it's allowed to breathe out, and be you, where you couldn't even speak, move, have a smile, have a step without it being you're too this, oh my God, you, oh boy, and then the ditch, what is the old, cycle, degrade and detach or whatever it is, they're going to discard. In other words, there's this sort of ditching of you, just like the guy on the freeway, out here, there's a wide stretch where there's a lot of high-end vehicles, man, as well. There's stretches, you get into, Chicago, and you can spend 2 hours trying to come from a suburbia to get to the city some days, especially if there's games. It's just, anyway, it's convoluted, but that driver that I'm talking about, so in Chicago or wherever it is, there is a redrafting of understanding that you need to see and hold space that has been sort of shrouded in sort of a dust or a covering over you for their defense, so that you were literally, gave all that you could. And we're not seeing the consequences or any sort of deleterious or negative effects where it took a lot out of you for some reason. And then you called that normal. And then further in life, you said, wait, there's some hurt here. And you can see at the root, oftentimes it is because of a deflecting, just like a car, that is sort of deflecting debris or something over you while they're trying to fly past you. That's sort of their energy. They'll sort of fly past you with this, as if they're mean at they're mad at you for being there and just driving past the speed limit, only 20. They want to zoom, and they want to show you with their great car how mean they are, or what trash you are. They're sort of putting you in these high risk situations, and they think of nothing to it, and they're just so pumped up. I mean, can you even imagine? And these drivers, but what do they do to you? And all the other people that they whiz by, it could be tens, it could be hundreds, it could be thousands of people that they threatened and put into a trauma, where you don't even know where your boundaries exist. So a trauma sort of removes everything and puts it into a rubble, and you're sort of trying to you're trying to get out of the rubble that has occurred in this relationship. And oftentimes it's because you can't see what is happening because you're engulfed in it. There's a sort of engulfment, means you are engulfed, or there's an enmeshment, or there's a disregard for your needs, where you're at, and your standards of where you should be moving to. Because relationships, folks, they have to go places. I'm so excited for our relationship to, like, we're going to go to that cool restaurant, man. We're going to then do this. We're going to take that day trip. And you get this vision. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to have this together. We're working towards it together. And then there's a feeling in the disregard that they just rip off your branch and just sort of you're dangling there like a little branch of a person, just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can get up. Like they've just emotionally, shaved you off with like a saw or some sort of tool, razor, like an emotional razor. I mean, all the shortcuts today, you guys, it's like the modern day tomahawk, really spread out, short here, fire up on the top. What is that? A Greek god look? I mean, I know it looks good on men and a lot of women who are going for that look as well. But what I'm trying to say is there's an overriding. It's where you can't sort of have a witness of anyone else. And so it's almost like that hurt doesn't exist, but it really does. So it remains buried in denial. And neglected because somehow you had to survive in life. What is survival? And where was it, where your needs were not met? And to say authentically, I can identify and I'm actually right there. And it's just like, okay, we're right there. And they don't want to see it or believe it. So you're sort of spliced off and then how do you grow from there if you're not somehow connected? So it's really reviving the reconnection within yourself that exists, that it's like really has to be recorded. You have to really get that plug-in of your self-esteem into then your heart. Like, in other words, to like move it up and like, because your connection in your I am that we're talking about that was ignored, they put shame on you. It's a toxic shame that violates that boundaries. No one else is there to witness it. You're there like walking around with this emotional scab, like, doesn't anyone else notice that this isn't working here, or that like I shouldn't be having to do this right now? Like, why am I having to do this for this person? Or why am I putting my life on pause so long? Or why am I getting into these really embarrassing or risky situations that they think are funny, but they're really sort of disconnected and they're in a very high risk behavior in their own world, and they're not taking you along. Even if you have kids, siblings, pets, iguanas, souvenirs from travels together, airplane tickets that you hold for memorabilia. What if you have to like look at the sentiment and what you were attaching to within yourself and then shred that into and allow that to be released, into the quantum, and like really be okay with letting it go, meaning I see what it is, and that's where it's healed. Like, so to see it and heal it is okay. So a lot of people say, oh my God, I can't, I cling to this part of me. I'm still, as you move on, nobody, you heal it and you let it go, meaning you're okay with disappointing the abuser. You're okay with looking away from someone who ignored you. You're okay with keeping your head held high when someone tried to sock you in the gut with an emotional statement that jarred you and took you way back and under, and you were just really appalled and numbed out, and no one else was there to confide in. So this was all just embedded, really sort of digested, because then you become a willing, participator in the abuse. That's never good. When then you're sort of denying the red flags. You're like, I know that this is killing me inside, but in the name of love, I'll do it. Or, I know that this is wrong and I'll just let them go and I'll just sort of endure it. Or I'll cope and I'll just sort of put my life on hold till I can see them again, you know, or whatever it is you've like lived in that I'm cutting my, you know, myself off, or where you wanted things to go, they're sort of not available. They are not there. But once a little bit, you'll get a little phone call, a text, or something, and then, but then it'll go back and forth. So it's just like you're a starving animal. You really don't know, and you shouldn't even try to get anything off it. You should let it go and let it be, and let the fullness of the experience fester and bloom in a positive manner, and like let it be in a let it be, like the Beatles said, you know, just let it be there in its positive manner, and you don't have to contribute to the trauma negative growth. You can witness it for what it is in a safe place. So that's what we call making holding space for yourself. So in other words, having the ability to do that, in other words, you know, having that little bit of tension within, and not worried about what other people think or you don't have to do for others to be impressed. It's just who and how you are, and how you want to be, and how you feel in that moment. And whether it's under, whether it's over, whether it's flash, no flash, whether it's sleepy, whether it's caffeinated, it doesn't matter. Your you, sort of that, you know, authentic you. So that is sort of the area I want to get into today, is that space. Is that space. So when, well, and you know what I was looking for was these index cards that I had. And what is really helpful, as I mentioned, that sort of tools which are very accessible to people, is to have in the hand something other than just your device. OMG. Can you live like that without your phone in your pocket, in your bra, in your purse, in your hand, driving, shopping? I mean, it just doesn't end. These people are glued. And it's okay for you to be different. It's okay for you to say no to self-disrespect, you know, because they'll sort of really reinforce that within you. So you have to imagine how long you have been in confidence of sort of that type and style and energetic attachment to the relationship. So there's a non-clingingness that needs to happen. And so for non-clingingness, you need to be able to understand that the source of you is unlimited, which means it is unharmed, which means it can see very good positive strength and direction. And if it knows where it wants to go, it knows, or it's more from your be state. So I want to sort of get into more of that rather than the apprehension, because apprehension, oh man, I definitely want to check that out. They create more of an apprehension. Is this kind of a normal everyday look for you, apprehension, and you've gotten so used to apprehensiveness? Oh my God, that will make you sick. The apprehension that is, you know, sort of part of the engulfment that creates the self-doubt, where people then can't trust themselves and their decision. So on an index card, I want you to write a key word. A key word. No, I'm saying apprehension. Apprehension, not oppression. So one moment. So, and I want you to get a key word out. Oh, I know what I'm missing. So they're angry, they're sort of apprehensive, sort of always fearful or anxious that something bad or unpleasant will happen. So it's kind of built into the fiber, the roughness, the seediness, the grit, the wanting to, and kind of hurt or scar or get under the skin, make bleed, slap on the face, really emotional warrior like sort of type of relationship that they think it is endearing, that they think is cute, that they think is character, but it requires a certain suffering of you. That is okay to let go of a abusive relationship, or that's especially as you get older, because it's okay to heal and open up some more of the unexpected magic or surprise that comes with every day of letting go. You think it's going to be emptiness, but it really, when you get through your emotements and you really work on your astralmations, which I also recommend at the index card level, and for the life of me, I will find those, but I want you to have a flash card for you. Because as we're talking, there's this annihilation and lack of recognition of your strengths, and even coming to terms with those. So I want to ask you a really healing question. So if you have your paper out, awesome. So if my boundaries were not violated, hurt, or really sort of shred up as I can testify them to be, if that tension and that hurt did not overwhelm my life, I would really love to. And I would really love to. And I would love to become. I would really love to, and I would really love to become. I would really love to. And I want you to write 1 through 20. If you have even more than that, so in other words, even though that this has become something that has really held me back. So if I could without or within, so, and I want you to recognize that sort of rocking or cradleness. Without, that means other recognition, and they're validating me, or within, self-validation. This, oh my God, self-validation. Oh my God, no way. I'm so based on Instagram, Facegram, this person, what they say, what I am. What is your based on? This, like in college I studied, you have to recognize that there's a lot of judgment that's flashed by you. It might determine your future, and you don't even know or validate it. So, so you want to open up to that, and you don't want to regress. It means you don't want to start those sort of self-hurt behaviors where you start sort of picking at yourself. So if I didn't doubt myself, I would really love to be A. And then I want you to write 1 through 20. Okay? And if hurt or pain was not an issue, I would really like to become the best, or what has really been held back from me is. What has really been held back from me is. And then get to know that part of yourself, which is the inner validation. There's a lot of questions that you can ask, and really sort of, in other words, if someone's judgment, it was not an issue, I would really love to. If someone's validation wasn't really an issue, I would really love to. And even though that intense trauma is present, or that is what I'm aware of, even with that, I really feel I would like to go in a surprising direction of, even though without judgment, without that tension, without that hurt. Okay, so you can say also, if money was not an issue, I would really love to, or if they're and I want you to ask these questions and start getting to that part of yourself. And you can fill it in now. You can, because this is underneath the surface that you didn't even know existed. So that's what I want to sort of help you carve out, get to know, and get really strong about yourself, that you then reinforce in the moment, that sort of recovery date, that sort of self-esteem date, that sort of woodsman date, or whatever it is about you that that you're now becoming the master of, a well-read female. I want to go out and feel, and then you lock that feeling in for 2 hours or 1 hour, and as if. So if their judgment was not really an issue, I would really love to. Or better yet, if their judgment wasn't really an issue, what I really love about life is. And I want you to write something down. Right there, 1 through 20. Or what I really love doing is. And let's just get it out there, air it out. All that has been bubbling underneath. This is what needs to get sort of unplugged and then validated, and then you can kind of reinforce new boundaries. Once you are sort of there and are able to witness and validate from within. So it's a new inner chamber for yourself to inhabit and come current with. That is a new sort of feeling of okayness that doesn't go away, that doesn't have to be validated, isn't determined by any of the above that are sort of too much, too stressful, too annoying to keep in place. So oftentimes this sort of disrespect or denial of your own needs. So in other words, you're not okay if you just want to be content and just be home, or do something simple. Or you might find that you're like a great craftsman and you really want to build something, and you just put it out there in those answers. And they can, and then now, knowing this to be the case, I want you to plug from that list one of those into your emotement, meaning I really want to get to know, even though there was so much judgment on this strong part of myself, I would really like to get to know. And so there's a part of you that's like, that maybe has not been lived into yet, if you will. So you might say, oh, God, I really wanted to go to school, or I really wanted to join a church, or I really, need to get involved with this synagogue, or I really want to get to know this park district, or I really want to go and just sort of unplug for a while. I want to get to know my inner scuba diver. I want to get to know my inner painter a little bit more. I want to work in whatever kind of medium. You want to get into cars. You want to stop getting into cars. So maybe you might be saying, I don't want to go that direction anymore. And then you might sort of put up for sale, some aspect of your life that's in the way now. It doesn't serve you anymore. So these questions can also help you to see the area of your own struggles without judgment, without criticism. Realize that oftentimes these are like the shards, the emotional sort of spikes that can come and really be part of you, that you identify as I am, and then a victim, wounded, held back by, injured, broken down, and then deflated, or I'm always living dead and by because of this. And then this becomes a negative confirmed state. So you're then trying to live by negative validation, defined by your negative, what you're not, versus being defined by who you are. And that becomes a place to get to know. You might have a good strength of connection to something very simple. That could be very as easy as going out to your backyard, your front steps, saying, I want to get into gardening. I want to get into pottery. I want to get into pottery painting. I want to get into creating clay. I want to get into, whatever, making a bench, building a patio. I want to create a raised flower bed. I want to create a raised vegetable bed. Something that even though there was a lot of judgment, what really makes me excited is, and then even though I've heard a lot of judgment, what really gets me excited is, and you might say, oh my God, what? I really just need to walk around barefoot on these sands, and it might be sands nearby, local, great. Or you might say, I want to go and put these bare feet into the sands of Hawaii, Greece, Mesopotamia, back south, out east, down and asunder. I mean, are you traveling now? Can you, where do your feet really want to roam? Even though I've been so held back, what I would really be excited to do is learn to cook and bake a pie, get more into being a vegetarian. I know in my school, when I studied Gandhi, in our classes, we're going to go for about an hour, guys, but in one of my classes, we had to live like Gandhi for 5 days. So Gandhi had a philosophy of nonviolence. I think it was called ahimsa, which is just sort of like a nonviolent state, and it does not require the feedback or justification from what has been learned from the outside environment or society. And so you can learn those things, that I have to buy these kinds of clothes, that I have to be this sort of held down in my life. I will never get beyond this. That's sort of, I've been in so much enshrouded, I will have no resources, I'll never go anywhere. Or, any of the other various and sundry things that you felt, but now, you need to now get sort of on a new path, and then getting your new behavior going in that very direction. And oftentimes that can be recalled with coming back and then opening up this area within you that has some answers that was probably told to shut up, you aren't good enough, all these things where they silenced you, and it became part of the molding. It became part of your ceremony. And now you don't want to do that anymore. You're barking up the wrong tree. You don't want to be in that tree. You want to move yourself. I mean, and even if it seems too big to be real, just go big, because that's where your life is breathing into you, is from that bigness, that largeness, and, I would really love to, and then you might find it's really coming up from within. Go to the Museum of Science and Industry. I would really love to go to the Art Institute. I would really love to go to the Magnificent Mile. I would really love to go to the Bean concert, or I would really love to go to a beach concert. I would really like to go to the sands of Greece and have a Grecian cooked meal out on the patio of the sands of Greece somewhere. Or, you might just want to go for a day trip and stay in a hotel that has a pool and hang out there. Or you might just want to have a staycation where you do something super cool and you go out and you reinforce a special recovery date. Maybe you say, I need to take it easy. I need to just not have anything scheduled. And that is okay. So a lot of people need to calm down, and to calm down, you need to create a time where maybe then nothing is scheduled. If you're so over, if you have a lot of that noise going on, where you're sort of living in the future for all this sort of stuff, and sometimes that stuff doesn't become, or sometimes that stuff is playing too hard in your mind. The vibration is too strong within you, like a record that's is having like really loud music that's just part of the everyday song of this song. It's just moving you in all the different ways, and you might say, you know what, man, I'm not moving to that song anymore. I am not grooving that groove. It is okay if I change the station that I tune into. I'm no longer listening to that trash music. I'm no longer going to that trash store. I'm no longer eating that trash food. I'm now clearing room and making way for. And so parts of you that was disrespected, I want you to uncover, release, and then become. And then complete a large circle. The large circle might be a short-term outcome. What are you going to do right now to be planted? So you can be planted in something big. In other words, being solid, not quivering, not shaking, not wobbly, not wavering. No, because a lot of that discontent can come from a lot of the judgment. And I was saying in my class, we had to live as Gandhi. And so I had to realize that like a lot of our culture is like based on creating a lot of tension for people. In other words, hey dude, why don't you get this watch, like to show that you're a big guy, hey dude, why don't you get this like ultra tool to show, you rule the block for wind blowers, or, the biggest grill. You've seen big, huge statues on people's property. I mean, they're getting their mail and they've got this big statue of, I don't know, sometimes it's just like it's just, sometimes it's just like, and it's, that's, they're aligning to that big, but that's okay. But, sometimes there's people who have grown, who have ultimate respect for others. And you're like, yowza, whoa wee. You're like, you've met someone who is really like grown, but they can also respect people and meet them where they're at. And they don't have to trash you to be around you. They don't have to undercut you to, headbutt you, or they don't, what do you have relationships for? I asked this, what do I have really? Companionship. So is it to be there? Is it for me and, to what degree do you need this negative, in your life? To what degree can you say, I'm okay without it? And it's okay to not live up to the expectations of someone who is just going to discard me. In other words, it's okay to let those go and instead come to neutral, and then have your own standards, which are now recreated from a new soft earth, from a new soft place. You have a full soft spot for yourself where you're forgiven the misunderstanding, and you're able to look at sort of any sort of engulfing or traumatizing situations that your identity was threaded into, or is a thread of you. And it's still, a lot of people hold on to this, but you have to make it, to what degree are you going to be healed enough that it's not part of your everyday self that you present to the world? To what degree is it resolved within you? And to what degree can anyone, and then similar to them, throw you a comment, be offensive, and you'll realize that's all about them. People's negativity is all about them. People's negativity is all about them. So if you were in a relationship, well, of course, perhaps you then really cared about them. And so do you see kind of what compost this makes for fodder in the beginning of the relationship? If someone was negative, if someone had a trauma, if someone they were coming from a stressful time, this is just who they were. They were aggressive. They were competitive. They were jealous. They were hurt. They were wounded. They were entitled. They were all these things that gave them perhaps sometimes a really bad wound to people. And you have to really calibrate and know, like my knee, see it's getting better. To what degree did they severely hurt you? And to what degree can you then see where a new growth is coming, that if you then engage in enough of these writings, that you say, even though, if this judgment was not an issue, or if money wasn't an issue, or if time wasn't an issue, or if stress wasn't an issue, I would really love to become. And then write 1 through 20, a business owner, a musician, a painter, a ceramicist, a hairdresser, a translator, a digital programmer, a carpenter, a fancy high status guy, whatever, what is in your becoming list, from really, and not from the reflection that was maybe coming from the negative that you thought was, true or negative about you. So the part of the holding space is letting able to let go and filling with something much more positive, and just doing it not for the approval of others, being okay, and not for the approval of others, but just because that's who you are. And they couldn't sort of give you who you are at that time, or they couldn't meet you where you are, where you were. They were off map, they were off course, they were off rail. They were the highlight reel of my life. You might have had to buy tickets every day. Oh man, I can't just show up. I got to do something first. Then very contingency based, or condition based, transactional based. You'd have to do something for them, to be part of the relationship, where, in other words, you go, oh God, I know this isn't right. I really need to be able to focus more. Or I know this isn't right. I'm not ready for this yet. I'm not skilled for this, and you don't realize that you might be coming off this way to the narcissist, because they're not able, but they can't come to other people at that face-to-face, where that's where, if you can have healing with people, that's the, oh my God, the healing grace. That's phenomenal. But you have to have witness of truth from those people, and totally absolve them of any sins through the power of that grace of understanding, and knowing that they didn't, mean to hurt you, but furthermore, that you're okay and can bounce off, bounce off whatever it is that they might, because you have that internal validation. And that's sort of what's then operating within you. So if you complete your emotement, so let's just say your emotement is saying, I really wish I was better at money. Or I really wish I could learn more about, no, let's not talk about that. I was going to say trading, because then you could say your emotement might be going, well, then why don't I, take a walk into a bank in town, and why don't I see about what kind of other savings accounts I can get for myself that are just stashaways for just because I am me, or treat myself, or do something positive in that way in your reflection. You might say, part of you said, I really want just a better sort of companionship, that's not based on all these sundry tensions. So then your emotement might be, I'm just going to take a walk to this church, or I'm going to study about religion at the bookstore or the library or the half-price store. And you might go there and just have a very it's meant to be solitary. So it's a way for you to have sort of some scheduled, intentional solitude. Scheduled, intentional solitude, which is a different feeling, a different vibe, a different I am than your day-to-day. So it's meant to be a step up or a step higher. So in other words, it's meant to take you into the I am direction in solid, and not for anybody else, not explained to anybody else, not written down or shown to anybody. This is for your eyes only. This is for your eyes only. That is what these writings and sort of fleshing these out and really combing through them and sort of blowing off the dust and like really being okay, and they might be fragile, they might be delicate, they might be inaudible, you might not hear it right away, or they might be really big and you're going, oh my God, I didn't really realize that I was into home ownership and I wanted to get a second something, or I didn't realize that I was really into building decks and I really want to build this and this box or shed or patio or something, or I didn't know that I was really into cars and I really want to get into this, car purchase or this car repair book, or, walk and just stop by some garages and inquire about a couple things, or go to a couple hardware stores, or ladies, or whoever, you might want to find, about spa care. And, how do you relieve this tension that has been created? And it's really part of all of your senses. So including your seventh sense, which is kind of your higher consciousness. So your higher consciousness is really where we want this whole emotement to be operating from. That you don't really visit, that you don't really talk to, you don't really get out there, but it's just sort of a go-to place that's within you, that's about you, that's not explained to, justified, or having to be out. And I'm not talking about being secretive, but I'm talking about in the heart of the self, for the self, creating a really truly go-to place. I have not even walked there yet, Peace and Harmony. I have not gotten, I don't even know how to get there. Well, then you find, your GPS and you go there. Peace and Harmony, I didn't really know that I was into, and I want to now get these tools. I want to now get these pastels. I now want to get these paints. I now want to study about this country. Or I want to get into exercise. I really, want to get into this way of eating. I want to clean this up. Or I want to get more into having quiet time, solitude, having, even, for guys, and, I talk about all the senses. So what other elements in your moments can you bring truly where you're almost sort of like the driver who's taking around, as if you were like driving a little carriage, and there was someone behind you who you were taking to these special places that they needed to visit for the day, like while they were visiting, and you were to bring them in, and then you're there to open the door. So in other words, your higher consciousness, where you haven't been to before, that sort of, the next step up within you place, that you say, I want to do. And you so quietly then become, and you sort of, things kind of fall into place. The key in the ignition, you go to the bookstore, you actually do the reading, you actually do the cooking, you actually get the ingredients, you actually get the, and then you're doing this, and if with consistency, it's going to really build up your I am, and just sort of not in a non-verbal way. So this has to be done frequently and have a frequency, an ongoing frequency, which might be, to break up your current routine. So you might have to get up a little bit earlier, or you might have to find time where you didn't think there was time in order to schedule this time for yourself with yourself, sort of reinforcing, just who you are, how you want to be, feel, look, and also those other, engaging all the senses. So what do I want to hear? If you want to hear, classical music or something, then actually go and get a ticket to a symphony, or, schedule some on a walk and listen to a symphony. or some other sort of different music, bluegrass, country, something different that you want to explore that maybe would have been laughed at or scoffed at, yet it's truly a part of you that you want to recover and reclaim as part of you. So that part of you might be kind of silly, giddy, and playful, and sort of, or it might be very solemn, but you have to, so if it's very playful, creative, artistic, you say, oh my gosh, I really want to get into fishing, and then you get this whole mess of fishing gear, and next thing you know, you're cooking salmon, trout, you learn how to catch a crab, or if you're into, like photography, and then you get into nature photography, and you're like, for you, in other words, but not to show, but for you to create and for you to inhabit. And this is to be someplace new. So in other words, and we're talking about the other senses as well. So when you do this, I want you to really make notice of what you smell. I was going to bring this out. This is like a really healing scent. And we're talking about, excuse me, the senses, and restoring or reclaiming those, if you will, in a way. Reclaiming those, which means re-inhabiting, re-nurturing, and refeeding those things which had been denied or discarded within us, that we want to come back to. Things that we needed, enjoy, take pleasure in. Not to the point of any self-destruction, however, to the point of self-fulfillment. Self-fulfillment, which is different than maybe your career enjoyment, or your career goals. Self-fulfillment, meaning, do you have this place within yourself that you can rehabit, rebuild, and then come back to, like a new shelter within? So you have to reincorporate some new objects, some new things to be conscious and cognizant of, including things that you hear, see, touch, smell, taste. And these things that you move through, and then furthermore that you think and reflect on, and then are also coming from your higher power, which was sort of maybe cut out, that has still been there all the while within you. What was that poem? Lord, I thought that you had abandoned me, and then the Lord says, no, that was while I was carrying you, and then it was we, when they were like healed, and so then they feel that there was 2 footprints in the sand. You can go and look at that, but it's kind of like that. You're coming to fulfill this open vacancy that is meant to grow, that is meant to you and reinforce. Sometimes that is scary, uncomfortable. You don't know how you're going to make it. What if it's something that you are going to create? What if you flop at cooking? You say, oh, I want to create these muffins, and they're terrible. I want to create this drawing, and it looks like something, but then you continue, and you have a little something that you're pleased with. Not that you have to do anything to sell, get reinforcements, take pictures of, and that are sort of without that judgment and apprehension and discontent. So, in other words, to create some new be states, especially that of sort of peace and contentment, which is basically we're going to sort of create by re-inhabiting and retraining the body to be acknowledged and validate. So you're really creating a wider repertoire of be and I am states. Hitherto, before, you had an experience before. So I have never been to this quite nice a restaurant, or I've never been to this great a church, or I have never danced so hard and felt so free. I have never laughed so hard. I have never seen such a beautiful setting. I have never smelt such a wonderful flower. I have never seen such an incredible wild animal. And I have never had such, scenic vistas that I took in from either being a passenger or going on a train or making something for the. And so these finer times that you can create so that you're coming and you create a new storehouse. I also call it, it's kind of like the I am jar, or the sort of because you've been discredited, oftentimes you've been identified by lack, meaning by what you're not versus what you are. So you might have this wound or part of your identity right now that you would like to heal through. That is, you feel like you're presenting this wound itself to society, and you don't like it. You feel weak, vulnerable, uncomfortable. You have to work on your strengths, and this is maybe a first time for you doing this for yourself, and you're wondering if this is the right thing to do if you're older, a man, a woman, or if have a family or a significant other. I don't know if this is right, but I want to do that. I just am, because you have a trust in self. So if I didn't doubt myself, I would really take better care of. Or if, so these are going to become a new repertoire. Or for example, if you were a musician, it would be like you have a lot more sounds or strings to pull from versus just like you had only 2 or 3. And that was, ongoing tension. So the healing path that I envision for my viewers is kind of what I call a quantum recovery, which is really more of allowing sort of other surprises to be there with your most competent self, rather than feeling like you've been made to be like your most incompetent self. You are enough. You are good enough. And so you might have, really been bestowed with a lot of negative states that are part of your repertoire that you need to sort of put away, put on eBay, maybe sell off to the museum, do something, give it to your church, give it to your Goodwill. Just sort of being willing to let go of that wound itself that calls yourself I'm a victim, or feels really sobby, and unenriched and unable to be a leader, or feel a little bit better about yourself. And it's okay to say, you know what, even though I am this age, or even though this has been going on this long, or even though it's this severe, my feet are right where they should be, and all is well. And so and to get into that nondescript, not even part of your body, not even identity, just sort of disidentifying for a moment with everything that has been, with everything that has been, and then just allowing just sort of a quantum B state to kind of run through you. And this might be a new state that you need to create room for, that plays a little sweeter song for you, that you are finding your own behavior and pleasure in, that you're now doing like a part of and it becomes a part of your personal growth. And it might also carry over to your professional, your spiritual side, you're having a lover, you're having a companion, like a friend who you can really truly confide in, and the one who's not going to take a big tail out of the front and then whiplash you from the behind, because what you thought was your teddy bear is now a fierce dragon with a fiery tail that's whipping you across the face. How did that happen? Oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. Well, that's part of the denial. So what we have to do now is get into some more of those behaviors and B states, and combine those and reinforce to help give you a new sense of self that is based on and sort of including your repertoire. In other words, maybe it's what you're going to stop doing. So a moment might be time to decompress rather than add something new. So it might be a behavior that you take out. So and making sure that your senses are really taken care of. So as I was alluding to, there's this great sort of wood called Palo Alto wood, and you can get it like in bulk. I don't know, like on eBay or what have you, or you can find where they it's just natural wood, and you can put this and create a little mini fire, and then sort of cleanse your area with this very calming, very uplifting scent, and it just sort of cleans the environment, and it creates for a sort of calm and sort of out of respect, like a blessing. You feel, so in other words, you're creating now with intention a sort of environment that you need to and want to reflect in your B states. And so, and could be on your own. So in other words, you might then say, well, I need to stop doing something, and then you might find yourself cleaning out a whole shelf in your closet, or you might find, but I don't want your moment to be like part of a work. I want it to be out for enjoyment, and then part of that might be just going out and going for a walk around like a local town, a new town that you visit on foot. You might just go through and walk through some beautiful sites that are nature, that are perhaps architecture or different types of architecture that you want to explore and just see in person. It could be a beautiful church, a beautiful synagogue, something else, a beautiful mountain, another foothill that you want to explore, something that you really want to endeavor into and create sort of like, so if you want to say like, I want to be more about the outdoors, and they were always trying to get you to add, the narc before, this person always wanted you to wear perfume, always wanted you to be always spit, shine, and clean. You say, part of me just needs to get into it. And you might just then want to explore a new thicket, a new, a new state park or something that you've never been to before. So you'll have to see and then how this goes, and you can write these down. So and then to your first word for behavior. So geez, it's been a little bit. So, and I was saying, so with the senses, and so you want to bring those experiences more, bring like elements of the outdoors in, or vice versa, or what challenge, like what areas do you want to like sort of clear out or bring in, because everything around you will kind of symbolize and give energy back to where you're headed and the appropriate energy state, for this time of your life. So it's a great time for newly becoming and reevaluating and doing some really healing steps, places that you said, I am no longer eating this, I'm no longer picking this up at the store. So your moment might be, going and just walking by books about how to make your own alternative, so you might find your moments about replacing things, or you might find it about being real physical. So before we wrap up, I just want you to always write. So as of course I'm kind of going around and around, but so I want you to have your flashcards and then write like, I decide. I've got it right here. And so your flashcards, your key word that you might need to strengthen is if you find yourself stuck, like this pen that can't open. Is there something I'm missing here? Hello. This is a fine. I thought this was a big. Oh, I got a thin one. This won't work. Yes, it will. And so you might find that you're feeling inactivity. So your key word might be decide. your keyword, and you might have either a big tablet or a flashcard that says, just right on your kitchen counter, right on your office desk, right on your bedroom nightstand, right on wherever you have, decide and allow your subconscious to pick that up, because we want to get your subconscious working, the one who can then row the boat for you, rather than suffering through trying to navigate a craggy creek, and you're like injuring your boat while trying to get it over there. In other words, with how can we move on without the self-sabotage, and see growth where it has been in the positive, and be able to acknowledge and bring that in. So that is the journey, and that is the fun. This is your body, peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day. And don't forget to use your keyword. What is your new keyword? Is it calm? Is it, does your need to be more on the yang? Is it more active? Or is it on the yin? You need to be more, calm. So if you if you're sporadic, if you have all that noise, if you have all that rumination going from the judgment, and your lack of serenity in the outcome, you might be calm. So for people who have, that really over anxious mind where it just keeps spitting things out, that's because you're still trying to work towards judgment. You're still trying to satisfy a judgment in something that you haven't let go of, where you're already good enough. So you need to have out the word like calm. Your keyword might be something, it might be calm. It might be serenity. It might be balance. We're going to get more into that later. Have a beautiful day.